And the excitement is that here comes my deliverer. He opens the door, he lets me out, I rejoice, I give him praise, and then I let him know that I'll call him the next time I am in trouble. Because many of us are great at praying when we're in trouble than when we're having good times. Sometimes it's like, well, the Lord brought me out of this. Ooh, thank you, Jesus. And then the next minute, I'm back to doing the same old stuff I was doing before. Now, there's another time when I see him coming and I'm locked up in my prison. And I am so castigated in my prison, and I'm glad to see him coming. Now, what I have in mind is he's going to come and he's going to deliver me or release me from the situation, only for him to come to the door, open the door, step in with me and close the door. And now he is saying, I'm not taking you out of the situation, but I'm going to give you sustenance in the situation. You see, many of us have a revelation of God, not just through deliverance, but we have had a revelation of God through the things he sustained us in. Indeed, and in fact, some things have not gone out of our lives, but God has kept us in the midst of what it is we had to face. I got to take it to another level. It's critical now because this example is easily seen when we look at the Hebrew boys. And notice, if you will, that God could have delivered them at any point from the time they refused to bow. He could have stopped them from having gotten as far as the fire. The ramifications of that contextually I don't have the time to deal with, but nonetheless, he could have let them out way before they got to the fire. But he chose not to move until they were actually in the fire itself. Let's give that just a few moments of thought. They could not have been any more apprehensive because they ended up in the fire anyway, which means whatever their thoughts were on the way to the fire, they fulfilled and had a total thought process because they ended up in the fire anyway. And what God did was simply step in the fire, and now that I'm in the fire, it won't even burn. They came out of the fire without even a singe. God is talking to somebody today who feels like what they're in is going to overwhelm them. But the message he's sending you today is, I am in it with you. And if I am in it with you, since it can't destroy me, it won't destroy you. It's critical because many times we feel as if something is wrong with our faith when we're in situations that won't go away. And I've discovered in life that there are some things that the Lord holds our hands through, and they will not go away. The test of your strength is not always what you got out of. The test of your strength is also seen in how you operated while you were in a terrible situation. Oh, when I can say I still praised him, when I can say I still trusted him, when I can say I didn't complain about it, I just went about it like I should have gone, believing that he is a deliverer. And if he won't deliver, he'll sustain me until the point where he takes me to a higher level. feel all right. I'm getting better. His movement then is in his revelatory scheme, because your life and my life is not about acquisition. It's not about houses and land. Our lives is about the revelatory experiences that we have with God. That's what our life is about. What are you going to show me today? What exciting thing is going to happen in my life that I can ascribe to the power of God? What is it that's going to take place? What is it Satan's going to throw at me and God is going to buffer? What is it he's going to try to get me to do that God is going to intervene? The excitement of life is when you are faced with your challenges and God reveals himself in your spirit and in your strength. And so then, changing circumstances, and the question now becomes, how does he operate? The function of God as it relates to man is time, and in time circumstances change. So my mind rationalizes it this way. In changing circumstances, the demonstration of God's power is exhibited, because it's God who moves things back and forth. He moves things in a way that he can move them forward and move them back in the same way that he changes circumstances to change the times, and he changes times by changes circumstances. There are some things that you have been through in your life that you cannot remember what life was before it happened. There was something in your life that changed you so completely that you can't go back to life before that thing happens. Indeed and in fact, God just set up something in your life that completely changed your direction, changed your thought about living. I've got news for you. I'll put it another way. Some of us would have never met God if certain things did not happen in our lives. And God used the situation, no matter how negative, in order to turn you the way he wanted you to go. And every now and then we look back over our lives to incidents that happened in our lives, and we give God the praise, because we're saying, Lord, if it was not for that man, if it were not for that woman or that circumstance, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And so all of us can say, like Joseph, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. He changes times by circumstance and circumstance by time. And what it reminds me of, and a good example, is the speaker. The speaker is driven by an amplifier, and an amplifier moves your speakers in and moves them back. When you go home, just look at it. You touch one of them while something's going on, it vibrates, and it's what you call damping. That the amplifier moves the speaker in, moves the speaker out, in order to change the tonal qualities of that particular speaker. Now, if the amplifier is weak, then what ends up with the speaker is it clips. The amplifier clips and sends distortion through the speaker. Anytime that weak amplifier can't move that speaker back and forward, it's going to send confusion to the speaker. You see, the power of God then is his ability to move your life back and forth without his power clipping, so you don't get any distortion even in a situation that is awful and terrible. You see, the end of the day is that Satan is trying to distort, whereas God is saying life must go on, and I have to have the power to give you not only life, but more abundant life. Oh, I feel like having some church. I'm going to have some in a minute. You see, what he does is he flushes the old and he gives us new beginnings. And sometimes you have to have a catastrophic extirpation to cut off in order to go on. And anytime God gets ready to take you into something new, he looks over all of your old and he decides which one of the old has no more implication for your future. You didn't always give things up. Sometimes God just took it from you in order to put something else in its place. Oh, I feel something happening in here. And so I might say life then is a series of revelation, progressive revelation. One writer says, Isaiah says, thou shalt he teach knowledge. He's got to teach me his ways. He's got to upset my conceptualization of my own importance. And he's got to bring into my life his ways. And he has to teach, and teaching now is not stuffing it down my throat. What teaching does is I need you to do it this way, and then I still mess it up. No, don't do it that way. Here's how I need you to do it. Let me show you how to do it. You see, anytime you talk about teaching, you've got to talk about patience. You don't just say, all right, I'm going to teach a little child, and I need you to fold it like this. And the little child takes it and folds it like that. And you say, no, watch me now. Here it is. Fold it like this. And let's go over it again. Now, I don't care how irritable you're getting. If you're a teacher, you will show patience. You just dumb like your father. I can't figure you out. Now that's not teaching. I wish somebody would understand me. You're just using that opportunity to show your disgust, when teaching is not a place to show disgust. Teaching is a place where you go over it, and you go over it, and you go over it, and you go over it until the individual gets it and is able to stand on it. The only reason you're still here is God went over it, and he 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 went over it until you can stand and declare, I have victory in the power of my God. That's why I'm so glad that I don't renegotiate. I stand in grace. I can't renegotiate. I got to stand in grace. And so what he does now, he teaches. And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and are drawn from the breasts. I feel like I can touch your neighbor and ask, neighbor, are you on the bottle yet? He says precept must be upon precept and line upon line, here a little and there a little. I told you before that God is making deposits in your life that sometimes you don't even feel it. It is just such a small incision that you didn't even know he deposited something in your spirit. For the Spirit maketh intercession with groanings that cannot be uttered. Something passed between you and God. You really don't know when it passed, but you know it passed. He did something in your spirit. You can't tell when he did it, but he did it, because he has a way of preparing you for the next level and giving you revelation that you have not seen until the situation comes on you. And then all of a sudden you find yourself with the strength to handle it and don't know where the strength came from. And that's why when folk write you off, let them write you off, because the only off you can be written off by is God. And every time they write you off, he writes you on. Every time they put you out, he puts you in. Every time they try to kill you, he raises you above. The last time I saw your enemies, they were jumping like that, trying to catch you while you were moving.